Hey everybody, it's Matt Shu from Upright Health, and today I wanted to talk about um, being duck-footed and something you should not do when you are duck-footed. The reason I want to talk about this today is because I got an email the other day from a young lady named Emily, and Emily told me that she saw somebody a few years ago because she had some knee pain, and she ended up going to see a physical therapist to try to help her fix that knee pain after a knee brace didn't do anything to help her. And so the physical therapist saw that she stood with her feet out to the side. Here she says like a ballerina. A lot of times we call this duck-footed when your um, toes are angled out so they point away from each other. Your feet are just pointing out like that, forming a V. Um, and so this physical therapist told her that she should force her hips to internally rotate so that her feet were parallel. She did it for a month and ever since has had a ton of problems with her hips. Her hips always feel painful. She can't get them to stop feeling tight. Her glutes won't fire. Her back hurts. Her core will not engage. Her feet fall asleep when she sits, etc., 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 etc. She spent 5 years seeing doctors, physical therapists, and so on and so forth. Nobody's talked about a TFL. They talk about fibromyalgia or surgery for FAI. That maybe she's a psych case and she needs to see a psychiatrist, etc., etc. So all these awful, awful, awful kinds of things to hear. She's pretty much convinced that it has to do with that forced hip internal rotation that she had to do back in 2011. Um, Obviously, it's really hard to say if that's really the cause of everything for any individual's situation. But I think this is a really good learning opportunity because I think forcing internal rotation, right? So if you're out like this, if your natural stance seems to be like this, and you try to force yourself to turn your feet back in, what's going to happen is you're going to recruit the wrong muscles to do it. And so this is why I generally don't tell people to try to just consciously override the position that their hips are in. So if somebody is stuck out in a duck-footed position, what you should do instead is think about which muscles are going to be pulling you out like that. So I've talked about recently like a glute stretch back here. There's the pigeon stretch in yoga. That can be really helpful. You could be doing some myofascial work, using a lacrosse ball, using the body back buddy, something to smash through the glutes to help the body feel more relaxed in that straightforward position rather than trying to recruit a bunch of muscles to pull your feet in. What would happen is you would end up starting to use your TFL, your gluteus minimus. You'd probably even find a way to use your quads to pull the femurs internally to get that straightforward position. Once you start doing that, any activity that you do, if you're consciously trying to do that, you're going to be messing around with a lot of muscles in a lot of funny ways, and those muscles are going to start getting really tight because they're not really supposed to be doing that kind of work. Now, as for this young lady, Emily, she's got all this tightness now all over her hips. She can no longer use her glutes, which makes sense since she's trying to force her body to go into, or force her hips to go into internal rotation. That's going to inhibit gluteal activation. So for somebody like that, you actually need to start unwinding the, I guess you could call them overcompensations, unwinding the activity that she's taught her body. So she actually probably needs to start working the inner thighs, just basically hitting her hips from multiple directions to help them relax again, even if that means going into that externally rotated position. and then from there figuring out what needs to happen once that tightness has been relaxed. But again, just wanted to talk about that really quickly because I think it's something that I hear a lot of actually, where people try to force their bodies to do something that the body is not ready to do, and then they end up driving all kinds of fun and not so fun compensations into their body. So remember to look for the reason and not just try to force some external model on yourself. You have to really troubleshoot and work with your body to see what your body can actually do in a relaxed, more natural way so that you don't end up, in the long run, causing some other problems. So I'm Matt Hsu, and please remember that pain sucks, life shouldn't.